modern feminism today isn't focused on fighting the so-called patriarchy anymore. Its goal is to dismantle masculinity altogether.
Hi, and welcome to, or back to, my channel where I offer my thoughts and opinions about whatever catches my attention. I'm Kit, and today I want to talk about, for the first and I trust last time, Def Noodles. So far as I knew, this guy was a social/drama commentator, so I was quite surprised when this video, Feminism is Destroying America, popped up on my homepage. Turns out Def Noodles, aka Dennis, is now a right-wing, say that 5 times fast, grievance channel, and he's also running for Congress, because of course he is. Coincidentally, he's also a failed comedian, which I'm sure has nothing to do with any of this. Anyway, let's find out how feminism is destroying the US, and forewarning, do not take a shot whenever I say citation needed. You will die.
It is destroying America, folks, whether people want to admit to it or not. At first, feminism was sold as a way for women to gain equal status in society, and once that status was achieved,
citation needed.
It very quickly morphed into a full-on demolition crew aimed at the family unit, masculinity, and now basically every institution we rely on as a nation. From the army to the church.
The army and the church are the foundations the U.S. relies on? Citation needed.
The feminization of American institutions,
by which he means there's too many women in the public eye,
has paved the road to soft Marxism on one end and a bizarre cultural flirtation with militant ideologies like radical Islam on the other.
Citation needed.
So today we're looking at what some of these feminists are actually saying, the unhinged rhetoric they're pushing, and what we can expect in the future, because the same rights they fought for just about a century ago are at risk of being stripped from them by their own political choices.
I have no doubt that some women who voted for Trump think they're feminists, but by and large, feminists aren't voting for conservatives.
As they continue empowering forces that undermine Christian morality, theology, and every foundation this country was built on.
I guess if you run as a Republican, you have to spot their talking points. Is this him auditioning? Anyway, progressive Christians do exist, but again, by and large, religion, especially fundamentalism, is not pro-women's rights.
All while ushering in belief systems that don't persuade with a word, but rather with a sword.
Citation needed.
On the topic of the patriarchy, I can't stop thinking about this. Western religion has millions of people devoting their entire lives to a man, an omniscient being in the sky that claims via anecdotal text to have created life and created the world as we know it, when in real life, every day, women are creating eyeballs from scratch, brain stems, human beings. We are creating human beings with our bodies, and men still would prefer to worship a god, a male god, because he claims to have created life. We have no evidence that God created life, and yet women are not worshipped simply because we are women. I'm so done. I'm so done.
That's a good point. I never thought of it that way. Women are literally building whole humans in their bodies and risking death in doing so, and most religions worship a male god that claims to create life. Why?
Needless to say, everything this woman just said is objectively and not just in a one-person ranting to herself into her phone in her garage kind of way.
Yeah, I don't care for that kind of language, so I bleeped him. And wow, that response was, you know, you don't just get to say something is, and that makes it true. Do better.
This clip is a perfect snapshot of what happened to the American left. They traded faith for identity politics only to act shocked when everything around them just continuously falls apart.
Citation needed.
Now, she starts by comparing the biological process of pregnancy to the divine act of creation ex nihilo, as if gestation and genesis are the same thing. They're not. One is participating in a natural design. The other is the metaphysical origin of existence itself. Human reproduction uses materials, that being DNA, and a design that already exists. We don't summon matter, consciousness, soul, or being into existence from nothing. We continue life. We do not originate it. That distinction is a cornerstone of every major theistic worldview. And collapsing it isn't profound. It's just spiritually illiterate.
Okay, but also without women, that soul wouldn't have a body. There would be no genesis of life because it wouldn't have anywhere to go. It's truly amazing, and also unsurprising, how folks will do backflips to avoid acknowledging that yes, women contribute to humanity, And I would like to note that this doesn't mean I think women are only important as people who can give birth. But it is wild to me that the dominant religion in my country relegates women to a secondary role, while also saying how a male god is the creator of life and that is so important. In reality, it's just what men do that they find important. Women give birth? Not important. And that is also reflected in the abysmal maternal mortality rate in the US, highest among high-income nations. Same with the infant mortality rate. If we really cared about life, we would be working to change those outcomes. And also working to make life better for everyone. But we're not, because it's really just about power and control. Anyway, Dennis whinges about how this woman doesn't believe in God and I don't care, so skip it to the next bit. And also, I'm not sure where the feminism was in that reel. Is the speaker a feminist, or did Dennis just assume? Anyway, that was religion. Next up is abortion, because of course.
It's the core contradiction of modern feminism. Life is sacred only when it flatters the narrative and disposable when it burdens it.
I've not come across anything in feminism that claims life is sacred, but regardless, bodily autonomy is the most important thing anyone can have. Without it, you have nothing. And abortion is healthcare. When abortion is banned, women die. When abortion is criminalized, women are jailed. That should not be a world any of us strive to live in. I trust why is obvious, but in case it's not, even with life with a mother exceptions, how sick is sick enough? And most doctors are going to err on the side of caution with that because if you perform an abortion and the woman survives, how are you going to argue in court that, yes, she was fatally ill and needed an abortion? And also, you can't differentiate abortion from a miscarriage or stillbirth, which is why we read about women being arrested for miscarriages and stillbirths. Because we don't know, but when abortion is criminalized, it's assumed illegal activity took place. And pregnancy is so fraught with complications and risks, I truly don't understand people who think abortion is unnecessary. I can only conclude that they've been very lucky in their life and that they lack the ability to put themselves in someone else's shoes. There's also the question of, if a fetus is a person, how far does that go? Do we monitor what pregnant people eat, put them under state care if they have a cigarette? Seriously, how far does that go? Anyway, Dennis whinges some more about the narcissism of that woman, and he's either stupid or incredibly bad faith. The woman didn't act as though the womb was something she engineered, nor was she saying women should be worshipped. She was just pointing out a discrepancy.
This clip clearly exposes where the left currently is. They are scrambling to fill a spiritual void, but refuse to actually look upward or beyond their egos. So they seek inward. They worship their identities, their feelings, their biology, anything except God. They reduce the mystery of creation to just power dynamics. They rewrite morality around whatever biology or ideology is in vogue. This is what you get when a society spends decades teaching people to reject Christianity, reject tradition, reject family, reject masculinity, and enthrone the self as God.
This is a cat ears guy? Wow. Anyway, next up, dating.
I said I wouldn't talk about my dating life on here, but I feel like I cannot be the only one who feels alone in this. Just went on a first date, and this is no offense to this man, obviously. Perfectly fine, normal, lovely date. It's getting to the point, though, that that's the problem. Like, there's just nothing happening. And I just feel no sparks and no chemistry with people. And I feel bad because I feel like it's just me. I'm going out with really handsome, accomplished, interesting people, and I feel nothing. I feel like I'm just another girl. Like I'm one of a million, and there's just nothing special about me. Probably not presenting that great either. Not like that sparkly or interesting or like dynamic at all, because I'm just so depleted. I know my person's out there, but starting to really question if I even have it in me to find them anymore. I listened to Maisie Neely's book today, and through all of the hardships she had, she just kept going and kept dating and kept seeing people, and I admire people so much that have that in them, because I just don't have it in me. I thought I was safe and I thought I was done, and like having to do this again just feels like
Stop.
every time.
He selected that clip himself. If he hated it so much, he didn't have to include it.
I go on a date and it feels like so hard.
That was actually unbelievably painful to witness. The crying, the vocal fry, the self-pity. It's like watching a generation raised on Disney movies realize in real time that the world doesn't work the way the TikTok algorithm promised them. And here's a hard truth you don't get to hear often. You are one in a million. That shouldn't devastate you. You've just been conditioned by modern culture to believe that you're supposed to be some kind of chosen, sparkly protagonist. You're not. Nobody's special.
I'm assuming he's going somewhere with this, and can I just say, he's not selling whatever he thinks he's selling. He sounds so bored and detached. Did his campaign advisor, assuming he has one, tell him to do a video like this to reel in the trad cons?
You're just a human being. In fact, You're not 1 in a million. You're actually closer to 1 in 8 billion. Now, I don't say that to dehumanize you, because here's the paradox. The only thing that does make you special is the same thing that makes every single person on earth special. You're created in the image of God. That's your dignity. That's your value.
Oh my goodness. Is everything in this video going to come back to Jesus?
But when you abandon that foundation, when you replace faith with feelings and humility with narcissism, you end up exactly where you're at. Crying in your car, filming yourself for strangers, begging for validation from people who don't even know your name and could care less.
It's couldn't care less, but anyway, I really hope this isn't the whole video.
At the August trial for Abdi Fattah Youssef, the jury heard evidence that he ran his home health care company, Promise Health, out of a mailbox at a Central Avenue address where multiple other home health care companies were supposedly located. Youssef and his wife, Lol Ahmed, were charged with stealing $7.2 million of taxpayer money through Medicaid overbilling in a personal care assistant, or PCA, scam. The couple allegedly spent tens of thousands of the fraud money on luxury items for themselves. Despite the jury swiftly convicting Youssef, Judge Sarah West last week decided they got it wrong.
It's reversing or overturning a jury's verdict.
Defense attorney Joe Tamburino, who's not affiliated with this case, reviewed the decision and analyzed it for KARE 11 News. He says Judge West ruled that the state's case relied heavily on circumstantial evidence and that she believed the state did not rule out other reasonable inferences.
That, in fact, there could have been other reasonable theories other than guilt in this case. That's what it comes down to.
Despite the ruling, even Judge West wrote that she is troubled by the manner in which fraud was able to be perpetuated at Promise Health.
I was stunned.
State Representative Kristen Robbins, chair of the House Fraud Prevention and State Oversight Committee, says she's now reviewing if any state laws need to be tightened.
We want to strengthen state law so that we can get prosecutions out of these cases, because clearly a jury thought he was guilty.
Jurors in the case can't believe the decision.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked based off of all of the evidence that was presented to us and the obvious guilt that we saw based off of the said evidence. It was not a difficult decision whatsoever. The deliberation took probably 4 hours at most. Based off of the state's evidence that was presented, I was beyond a reasonable doubt.
What's even the point anymore? You have a jury of 12 citizens, 12 people who sat through the trial, watched the testimony, examined the evidence, deliberated, and came to a unanimous decision. And then one judge just strolls in after the fact and says, actually, never mind. For what? Because she didn't like the outcome? Because she had a crisis of conscience? Because her feminist white guilt got to her? Because she suddenly decided that the law needs to make room for her personal feelings?
Where does feminism come in? Or does Dennis think feminism is just women doing things? Does he think a male judge never overturns a jury's conviction or does other things he would disagree with? Good grief. If Dennis is really concerned about fraud, and I do have my doubts about his sincerity, I recommend he read Poverty for Profit.
Judges, many of whom were trained in law schools steeped in progressive activism, increasingly see themselves not as interpreters of the law, but as protectors of vulnerable identities for some reason.
The US has the highest incarceration rate in the world. Does Dennis think that's because Americans are the worst people to ever exist, or does he really think that's a sign everything is working as intended? We don't need to reconsider anything, actually. More people should be in jail? That's rhetorical. But seriously, there are a lot of problems with how we do punishment in the US. I'll link some articles below for those interested.
This is how we've ended up with skyrocketing crime in all major cities.
False. Crime has been falling for decades, and after an uptick during COVID, it's begun falling again. Anyway, Dennis claims the core pillars of feminism are the dissolution of the family, the unraveling of American institutions. I guess he hasn't noticed what Trump and his lackeys have been up to. And then, of course, he devolves into transphobia.
And the area we're about to look at is perhaps the most insidious and the most damaging, because modern feminism today isn't focused on fighting the so-called patriarchy anymore. Its goal is to dismantle masculinity altogether. And the method is simple. Deconstruct the male identity from birth. Raise girls to transition into boys. Raise boys to be non-binary or into gender identities that erase masculinity altogether. And when boys do remain boys, modern feminism pushes them toward the identity of trans women.
That is so ridiculous and without merit. Note, he has no sources for any of his claims in this video. It's just his thoughts about things that happen in the world, and of course he takes the right-wing grievance culture path. It does restore some of my faith in humanity that the comments are mostly just roasting him. No one is finding this convincing, which is really amazing. Usually conservatives are more than happy to uplift one of their own. Can they sense the grift this time? Or were the cat ears too much for them?
This is the trump card modern feminists have always wanted to play. They believe America is a patriarchal society built by and for men. And their goal isn't liberation, folks. It's replacement. They want a matriarchy. They want ideological dominance. And they want total cultural control.
I do appreciate Dennis confirming that he has no idea what feminism is or what feminists want. Also, matriarchy is not the opposite of patriarchy. Dennis is taking his thoughts, feelings, and beliefs and placing them on feminists. He is also ahistorical.
And ironically, they get the premise wrong right from the start. America was never some oppressive patriarchal hellscape. America was a form of Christendom, a society rooted in ordered liberty, moral discipline, and defined traditional roles that produced stability, family formation, and generational continuity. Those structures weren't oppressive. They were life-giving. They created a virtuous cycle.
The U.S. was not founded as a Christian country, but setting that aside, I would like Dennis to ask himself who benefited from society 100, 200, 300 years ago. It was not women, it was not black people, it was not indigenous people, all of whom are still struggling to have their rights recognized today in 2026.
And the only reason this project won't ultimately succeed is because the people of God, those who understand truth, responsibility, and what holds a civilization together, are starting to wake up. We're slow to anger, but we will finish this culture war.
Oh? And how do these people of God plan to finish this culture war? It truly is disturbing how just letting people live their lives is never an option for Dennis and his fellows. Anyway, that was more or less as expected, but my curiosity is satisfied and I trust I'll never have to do that ever again. My apologies for subjecting you all to this. And that's it for this video. My socials and Patreon are linked below along with sources and resources. I would like to thank everyone for watching through to the end, and of course, I would like to give extra thanks to my patrons. Have a wonderful day, read a book, have a few linked below if you're interested in some recommendations, and I'll see you in the next one.